and happy NWO Day. 26 years ago at Bash at the Beach, Hulk Hogan revealed himself to be the mysterious third man, joining Kevin Hall and
Kevin Hall?
Oh,
Kevin Hall and Scott
Who
Nash.
hired that guy? Who booked that crap?
Could you guys hear that? What just happened in my ear?
No,
That was me. That was me echoing myself because I had a visitor at my house who screwed up my setup on Friday. He's right here. My friends, Steve Kaufmann, Adam Woods, and George Hermoza are here.
Hello.
Wait,
And yes,
hi.
Hulk Hogan, thank you for.
I
yes.
unmuted a tab Friday. That's what happened.
Yep, you sure did. So Hulk Hogan
Oh.
joining Kevin Nash, Scott Hall to become the NWO. And you all have the opportunity to talk to the man who put those three guys together and created the most famous and most successful faction in all of pro wrestling. His name is Eric Bischoff. See, we got it right there. We are good to go. And he's here tonight. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
I am doing great. Recovering from a very relaxing but long 4th of July weekend. And looking forward to the end of this month, Ric Flair's last match, the roast of Ric Flair, in which I am going to participate. I cannot wait. So, yeah, a lot of great things going on. But I'm doing great. Couldn't be better. Couldn't be happier. Glad to be here with you guys.
We're glad to have you.
It was fun to hear about it was fun to hear about your big weekend this week on the show. It sounds like you cooked up some great stuff and had a lot of fun.
Oh, man. I had that rec tech just fired up. I cooked all kinds of stuff this weekend. It's fun.
Love to hear that. And of course, Mrs. B celebrated a big birthday. Happy birthday to Mrs. B. I know you're going to join up with some friends again tonight, some friends from the ad-free show space. Steve, what do you guys got going on tonight?
So tonight it's going to be called Lash at the Beach. It's one Lash LaRue. And for those who haven't been a part of it, he does what's normally called time limit draw, where he draws a print. He's a painter. He paints a print. And I believe tonight it's based on Bash at the Beach, because tonight is the anniversary of Bash at the Beach. And Eric, are you free right after, maybe?
Not only am I free, but nothing will prevent me from being there other than a power outage. And we just had a storm with hail and everything here about an hour ago, so I want to be careful what I say. But yeah, no, I can't wait to be there. I've been wanting to drop in on one of these episodes for a long time, and then things just keep getting in the way. But I'm going nowhere till I'm a part of that show. Just as a one of you, just watching along.
Hell yeah.
Great.
So adfreeshows.com. Head on
Crazy.
over. It'll be right after this.
It's crazy that you're free, because last time this happened, you charged me a fortune.
We actually have some brand new top guys here with us in the chat tonight. JKH Boys, welcome to Ad Free Shows. And he wants to thank you for everything that you do, Eric. So I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to chat with him a little later. And hello to all of our friends who have joined us live. They are already wishing each other a happy NWO Day. And they have got questions going for you, Eric, as well. So let's get to a couple of those. Let's just get right into it. I have a good one here from Josh Eternal, who wants to know, a little off topic tonight, but we'll throw this out there anyway. Who would win a 6-man tag if Elias teamed up with his brothers Ezekiel and Elrod to take on the team of Vinny Vegas, Diesel, and Kevin Nash? All right, we're bringing it full circle here. So he, of course, is talking about Elias from WWE and his brother, who we recently discovered he has, Ezekiel and Elrod. Eric, not sure if you have been keeping abreast of that storyline. Do you know what's going on with Elias and Ezekiel?
It reminds me of some of the things that were going on within the families of a couple of my friends when I was younger. Like, just, what do you mean I've got a brother? What do you mean you have a son? I heard that. I heard people yelling 2 doors down. That was the first time I went, wait a minute, how does that work? So no, I'm not keeping track of it. As far as the match, I mean, I've been a little busy, right? But I'm not as up to date as I'd like to be. I'm about 2 or 3 weeks behind on that storyline. As far as who would win the match, I definitely think Ezekiel and the entire family, that threesome, if you will, I would definitely defeat Nash, Diesel, and Oz. And I say that because those 3 characters of Nash, Diesel, and Oz were those are 3 different personalities. They're 3 different people. And I know all three of them pretty well. I've worked with all three, believe it or not. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I worked with Kevin Nash when I first got to WCW after they trashed the Oz gimmick. Maybe that was it. Either way, I know all three of them pretty well. And they wouldn't get along. That team would self-destruct.
Ooh.
So it would be a waiting game, right? You wouldn't want to go in hanging and banging and trying to finish the match quick. You'd want to reserve your energy, do what you need to do to stay in the match, right? Don't sit back in your laurels. But I also wouldn't put in 100%. I'd coast a little bit because Nash, Oz, Diesel, first thing they would do is want to take control of the situation, take control of the ring, set the pace of the match. And the more that you can, it's almost like in boxing when you want to stay out of a boxer's reach, want to stay out of range. You want to keep moving. You want to get in and out, throw a punch or two, stay in the game. But you don't want to start hanging and banging with a banger in the opening round. Not smart. And I would take that same strategy into that 6-man, and I'm absolutely sure the Ezekiel trio of brothers would prevail.
Wow. Even with Oz's magic.
Yeah, fuck magic, man. Elias can go. I like Elias a lot. I just got a chance to start talking to him with the idea of, figuring something really interesting out for him. I mean, he's a stud and he's a good dude. So happy for him.
Yeah, speaking of happiness, right? You began the show. A lot of people trash Kevin Nash's time in the booking committee, but I mean, this is the first time I referred to that whole kind of changing of the order with almost utmost sincerity. Kevin Nash essentially saw you in a lurch and pissed off and whatever had happened, and he comes in like, "Hey, how can I help?" This is the first time I'd actually heard Kevin Nash's position as a booker in a positive light before. You were there. Chat us up.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I talked about it at length on 83 Weeks. So I'm not going to do it here. But essentially, yeah, I was. I'll use the word desperate. I was fighting two different wars. I was fighting a television war, a wrestling war, and I was fighting a corporate war. And it was burning me out. And Kevin knew that. He was close enough to me to know that. And he probably saw it getting so bad that as a friend, he said, hell, let me help you. And he was walking into fire and he knew it, but he did it anyway. He was walking into a no-win situation and he knew it. And he did it as a friend. He didn't do it as someone that was hoping to get something out of it. He wasn't hoping to take over the booking committee. He wasn't hoping to get a giant raise. He wasn't hoping to do anything but to help a brother out, which is what he did.
Nice.
I think this is going to be my last show because I'm going to call bullshit on something you said on the last episode.
So aggressive.
I just want to,
I just want to tell you, Jorge, I really dig you a lot. You know that. But there was nothing a dude in a fucking man bun is going to say to intimidate me or put me on the defensive. So you take your best shot.
All right, we'll find out. You
Bun
said
boy.
you said, oh god, I hope that's not a hashtag. You mentioned kind of like when WCW was kind of on the decline in '99, around the time that Kevin Nash was there, was head booking, nothing to do with Nash, but just in general. You said that you guys lost that audience, and pretty much once you lose them, there's really no getting them back. So how did WWF get them back? And not only how did WWF get them back, how did WCW from 93, 94 get them back? I think in some ways that was maybe a little bit of a cop-out to say that, oh, well, we're just gonna throw the white flags in the air. There's nothing but hope. Aside all the network stuff, the Turner stuff, obviously, that's all aside. But like,
No, it's not. No. You don't get to do that.
Well, no, because like I was just because like it sounds like, because by all means, and I'm pretty much saying the same thing as far as like, even if WCW was doing really well, Turner would have, pretty much put the axe on it because they just didn't want wrestling, period. But that should have nothing to do with just WCW making good decisions. I think a lot of it, I took it as, well, we're just going to give up because there's really no bouncing back from it because you can't gain back the audience. I think you can, but it just sounded like it was just, you guys were just giving up in some ways.
Were you high when you were listening?
Absolutely not.
All right. Then I must not have done a very good job trying to explain my perspective. So let me do it here. What I said, or what I hoped I said, because I've said this before, I've brought this up in interviews before, that in a conversation that I had with someone who I greatly respected, who is a very, very well-respected producer in Hollywood, television producer, and was an executive producer at NBC, told me once that in his experience, because he was kind of mentoring me, he had a lot more experience than I did, and he knew where I was at in my current position and that I was learning on the job, so to speak. So in a very, he's not that much older than I am, so I don't want to say as a mentor, but kind of as a mentor, said, Eric, one of the things that I learned the hard way is once you lose an audience, it's almost impossible, or impossible, perhaps I said, to get them back. And I have found that to be true. I didn't say anything about quitting and throwing up the white flag or saying, oh, that's it. There's nothing we can do, so let's just ride this out to the end. Anybody that's known me for more than about a minute and a half knows that that's not something that would come out of my mouth. So if you heard it that way, I will apologize. Or maybe you go back and listen to it, and maybe listen to it a little more closely, because I think what I've said in the past is one of the reasons, to answer your question more specifically, Bun Boy, yes, that should be a hashtag. That should be a hashtag. It will be by the time I'm done with this. One of the things that I did to take the majority of the audience away from WWE was to attack a different audience, going after 18 to 49-year-old men, while WWE at that time was going after teens and preteens. That shift in creative philosophy and strategy, not the creative itself, not who beat who, not whether you like to finish or not, but the strategy of targeting one demo that was being underserved, as opposed to trying to compete with somebody who dominated a demo, was the right decision. And that's what was specifically what really was responsible for WCW going from in the fucking tank and only being able to do about 50% on WCW Saturday night of what Monday Night Raw was doing in primetime on USA. I point that out for a very specific reason, by the way. That was a dismal situation for WCW until I made the decision to create a different strategy, which was what catapulted WCW to the top in fairly short order, mind you. Then what happened as a part of all the things that you just wanted to put aside is that Turner Broadcasting, specifically an individual by the name of, oh my gosh, what was his last name now? I can't remember. It'll come to me. He ended up being Joe Uva. UVA, look him up. Google him. Joe Uva was the head of Turner Ad Sales at the time and a very powerful individual, and was a member of a committee meeting that I was invited to where I didn't really know anybody in the meeting, where they all sat around and told me how I was going to change the creative strategy for WCW based on what they thought would be the right prescription from an ad sales perspective. And since television is driven on ad sales, and Joe Uva was a senior executive in Turner Broadcasting, I think on the Turner Executive Committee, could be wrong, Google it. When Turner Broadcasting said, you're no longer going after 18 to 49-year-old males. We want you to be family friendly, PG. I legitimately was an MA rated show on cable television in prime time. They wanted PG. They wanted to go after the same audience that WWE left behind in order to outperform us in 18 to 49-year-old men by doing some of the outrageous things that even I couldn't do at Turner Broadcasting. Like walking women around on a leash like a dog and having panty fights and lingerie fights and giving birth to hands and drinking beer in the ring and giving people the finger on national television. I couldn't do those things. By the way, I'm not criticizing those things. What the hell, it worked, right? And a lot of other people dug it too. So this is not me being bitter or critical of the creative. It was a brilliant strategy that took a giant set of nuts to decide to do. And that's what WWE did. And that's why they took that audience that I had dominated for so long, and it shifted back over. So when my friend, Gary Considine, when that statement that he said to me, once you leave him, it's almost impossible to get him back, that was in the context of once that large chunk of audience leaves you for something that they find better because it satisfies scratches the itch that particular audience has. And at that time, the audience was probably well over 65% male. So figure it out. It's almost impossible for me. Why? Because I couldn't do those things. I couldn't compete creatively. I couldn't raise that 18 to 49-year-old sensibility creative. I couldn't raise the bar as high as WWE could and did. So therefore, it was almost impossible for me to get that audience back without outdoing what WWE did, which was outdo what we did in order to beat them in the first place. How's that for you, George? Does that make sense?
You know what? Apology accepted. By the way, I think
apology accepted. I didn't apologize.
You said,
no,
I
did, didn't I?
You said I'm sorry if you interrupted. By the way,
Wow.
I think you're onto something, because in that whole spiel, Tony Khan texted me. He's gonna sign me, put me up with tag with Wardlow. We're gonna be the Bun Boys.
There you go.
The Bun Boys.
And then you're gonna go
let's
up
do
against the Ass Boys.
So
I was going to say that. Why does that not even surprise me? It's not even that shocking.
Buns versus asses. Love it.
10
It's
points.
like a synonym in books.
So
Yeah.
I'll
the
be
And
there in the front
and
row.
by the way, it's so inclusive, and that's always important.
There we go. Well, I mean, and Eric, you said it took a lot of gigantic nuts, but it was actually grapefruits. There we go.
There you go.
Madden's Elite Podcast has a very interesting question. He wants to know, did Glacier's outfit really cost as much as is being reported? And
What's being reported?
It's being reported that outfit cost $35,000.
Wow.
Well, I don't think the outfit cost $35,000, but I think that $35,000 is probably a conservative number in terms of the lighting design and package and the effects that we also built into that. It wasn't just his ring gear. It was a lot more than his ring gear. So I think, combined, would I buy 35 grand back then? Sure. If somebody said it was 50 grand, I wouldn't argue about that either.
Well, because you weren't building a wrestler so much as you were building an like a strong intellectual property. So the look was way more important.
That was a big part of it. The whole idea behind Mortis and Glacier and that whole pack of bandits was all about creating characters that would be super attractive to the gaming industry in hopes of being able to do a great job of licensing WCW games.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that seems consistent. I mean, just on what I know, Conan, Conan basically has talked ad nauseum at his time as Max Boone, and the figure that he point is kind of similar to that 30 grand price point. And obviously, Max Boone didn't have the production that Glacier did, so that seems about right for the time.
Hey, and let's put it into context. I would bet that WWE spent almost that much, if not more, on that makeup that I did to be revealed as the minister.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Still one of the best segments in the history of pro wrestling. I'm not even blowing smoke. It is like it's one of those where like you
Don't
either
come
love it.
crawling back now.
No, and I'm serious. Like I think a lot of people either really love it or really really hate it. And I honestly think that's like however long the segment was, 10, 15 minutes of just pure like genius. Like
It was,
I
and
think
that was
people.
all, that was all Brian Gewirtz. That was his baby. I found out subsequently, and I should have known, but that was Brian Gewirtz and a great team of people with him. Wasn't just Brian by himself. And WWE going, okay, if we're going to do this, let's really do it. They flew me out to Hollywood, put me up there for 2 days. Okay, you're looking at $5,000 right there. First class airfare, nice hotel, right in Universal Studios or Universal City. You're looking at $5,000 right there. And I'm guessing, just on the limited experience I have had in that kind of makeup and prop work, I can't imagine that costs less than, in those days, 20 to 25 grand. And then they had to fly the makeup artists that created that mask. They flew a team of them out to apply it. I'm throwing 15 grand at that. So, and that was just for one segment for 10 or 15 minutes. So in the context, while the Dirt Sheet universe and the Dave Meltzer acolytes like to talk about these things like it's some kind of exorbitant expense, and that's crazy, Bischoff is just writing checks and giving away Turner's money, because that's generally the context that type of thing is discussed in. Keep in mind that segment that I did for 10 or 15 minutes probably cost more.
Can you do the voice?
Okay, give me a minute. Hold on, I'll be right back.
He's gonna do it for 50.
Finally, a good question, G Herm.
Oh yes, he's
Oh,
doing
he's
everything.
here. He's here.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here on this joyful occasion. How's that?
For the
We love it. He lives. He lives.
The sad part is I look older now than I did then.
I don't know. Your hair is impeccable. I'm just saying.
I think still like or the 3 minutes. Wait a minute. Like that moment is just like still gives me chills to this day. So
That was
kudos,
fun.
bravo.
You know what I like about that is the cool thing about Twitter and social media is inevitably on this date every year I get a feed full of that scene, and I get a kick out of it every time I see it.
There you go.
Well, wondering how much you think your favorite formula Sarsa had to play into the greatness of that whole storyline. And we have a question here from Sean Sweeney, who asked, Eric, do you think wrestling will ever be able to get back to the Sarsa formula you brilliantly executed with the evolution of the internet and social media in this day and age? Are
Yeah.
those two factors a problem for storytelling?
Have nothing to do with each other. Absolutely nothing to do with each other. That is, they're two separate things and not even remotely related. Writing great story, structuring story in a much more episodic fashion with focus and discipline on hitting the right beats within the arc at the right time and leaving the end of each one of those beats wanting the audience to see more has nothing to do with the internet and social media. It has everything to do with commitment and discipline. By the way, what I'm suggesting is not like there's not some magic formula. There are people right now in WWE that I know are not only capable of doing it, but built successful careers on doing it outside of wrestling. So it's not like, I have a secret sauce or it's some gift that I think I have. This is like traditional ways of refining and telling episodic story. Now you have to adapt that traditional formula to wrestling and to the wrestling audience. It's really what we're talking about. So you can't just go in exactly replicate it, but with a little bit of experience. And a lot of those people that I'm referring to that I worked with and that I have nothing but immense respect for of their credentials before they got into wrestling and since, those same people would be able to adapt that strategy and figure that out given the commitment and the discipline from the people above them. You got to be committed to it because it's not going to be overnight success. It's not lightning in a bottle. Just like we've seen scripted television, particularly in dramas, over the last 15 years, reach levels in sophistication and quality that you'd never see in television ever before, probably 10 years, before Breaking Bad. You know, that's when things change, when the commitment to scripted drama changed. And people, and, you know, because before this period of time, people were walking away from scripted. See, it started with the writer's strike. The writer's strike back in the late 80s, whatever it was, that opened the door to reality television, which was happening anyway, right? It was happening in Europe. It was already kind of making its way to the U.S. shores. But the writer's strike basically, you know, put studios up against the wall, and they had no choice but to say, okay, we're not really sure if this shit's going to work, but let's go give it a try. Well, they gave it a try more or less because they had to, and then it blew up, became hugely successful. Well, at that same point in time, I had friends of mine that were script writers and successful ones that were looking into getting their real estate licenses because in everybody's mind, scripted television was dead. Reality television is going to change the business. They're going to ruin TV forever. Writers are going to be, you know, they're only going to be doing movies, right? It was a bad time. And that was that way for quite a while until what happens? Reality television starts getting a little tired. And now you've got these new streaming ideas and platforms and new cable systems and cable outlets like AMC, you know, decided, you know what, we're just not going to be this old time movie channel. We're going to start doing some original scripted programming, and we're going to do it better than anybody else. And then the scripted audience left reality and came back. Not easy. Takes a big commitment, and you have to give yourself the time to do it. If you're chasing your tail every week, you know, waiting for the ratings to come out, tough to make that commitment. You've got to give it at least 2 years. And I think somebody will do it. As the television viewing audience for wrestling continues to deteriorate. Notice I didn't say for television because people are still watching television. Yellowstone got 15 million viewers on average, 14, 15. Yellowstone, a scripted cowboy series. Come on now. It can be done with the right commitment and the discipline.
And maybe a little Faith Hill and Tim McGraw. Can't hurt.
Or Kevin Costner. Or how about what's his name? Cole Hauser. Do you know Cole Hauser came to Cody for the 4th of July?
Really?
To your house, of course.
He was in the Grand Marshal of the parade.
Oh.
I waved to him. He waved back. He did.
I heard that he was bragging about having sort of met Eric Bischoff this last weekend.
No, he didn't. He didn't. But actually, here's what really kind of bummed me out. The only thing was, I had Mrs. B and I were on the curb. We got there at 7:30 in the morning, right in front of our favorite liquor store because we know the owners, and that way I could run back and forth and get her champagne and orange juice, whatever that's called, and then and I grab a beer. And I was only bringing one at a time because I was trying to be conspicuous. You know, I don't want to be out there early in the morning drinking beer on a curb next to a 6-year-old waving a flag. You know, it's just weird. It's a good, bad look. So I only had one beer at a time. And now here comes the Grand Marshal, Cole Hauser, rip. And no, he wasn't taking anybody to the train station. He was in Cody, Wyoming, maybe 45 feet from me. And his wagon stopped. He's on a big old wagon drawn by horses. And his wagon stopped right in front of me, 40 feet away. He looks over. I've got a beer. He goes, it's a true story. True story. I'm not exaggerating one bit of this. He's going like this. And my first thought was, what? And I'm going, oh, he sees my beer. And the guy next to me's got a fresh Corona. He didn't even pop the top on it. He's got a fresh Corona. I think he was the father of the 6-year-old. An even worse look for him. That's horrible. And he goes, runs up to Cole Hauser, Rip, opens the beer, hands it to him, and Rip rips the beer. That could have been me. Had I normally done what I would normally do, which is come out with at least 4 or 5 beers so I didn't have to run back and forth and miss the clodhoppers and all the other cool shit that happens in the parade, I would have been able to hand him a beer.
So
maybe next time you'll be prepared, Bischoff.
So I'm reading in Variety.
You know what? I was in the Cub Scouts. If I'd have made it all the way to Boy Scouts, I would have learned to be prepared.
I'm reading on the cover of Variety just now. Cole Hauser, NWO for life is the headline I'm reading.
I have
really?
to ask if his wife was sitting on the float with him or if she was anywhere around, because she's my favorite.
No, she was on a float too, and I think one or two of their kids were.
Oh my God, that's insane. Cynthia Daniel, everybody may remember.
Sweet Valley High.
Sweet Valley High. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, totally off topic. Was she the one that was with Keenan Ivory Wayans, or was that the other one?
That was the other one.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes.
Is she still with?
By the way, all of this started with a reference to why Yellowstone is so successful, and I think a lot of it has to do with Rip, because every woman in Cody was wearing a T-shirt that said something like, "Rip can take me to any train station he wants." You could, I mean, I don't know who was selling those Rip fan shirts, but every woman in the crowd was wearing, almost everyone. Mrs. B didn't. She was wearing a dress. She wouldn't admit to me whether she really dug them or not. No, she didn't want to make me feel inadequate or anything. So I'm guessing she did.
Oh man,
we just blown a whole show. We haven't even gotten to more than 3 questions yet.
Well,
you have more celebrity stories from Cody, Wyoming, I think, than I
Yeah.
have from Los Angeles. But yeah, let's get to him, Steve.
Instagram a wrestling historian wants to know, when is Jim Ross going to be the guest co-host for 83 Weeks?
I don't know. You know, that just came about because Conrad was in the entire team. And you know this, Steve, because you interact with those guys a lot, probably more than I do. They're buried. Like, I don't even text Conrad a question unless I can't possibly figure out a way to answer it, find somebody else to answer it, which is hard because I don't want to call Dave Silva either. And I don't want to bother Evan because he's working. I mean, everybody's working their asses off. But that all came about because I knew how hard Conrad was working, and there was just some scheduling issues with some of the other potential co-hosts. So I said, "Fuck it, I'll do it." I know Jim. We go back. I can do that show. We're talking about Hulk Hogan. And I wanted to hear, and this is why it was fun for me to do. I was genuinely interested in hearing Jim's perspective. You know, because for me, when I get to talk to someone like Jim, and we have a great relationship, he knows there's nothing he's going to say that's going to hurt my feelings or piss me off. I love honesty, because in that honesty, I get to look at the world or the part of it we're discussing from Jim Ross's point of view, not from mine. I have my point of view. I know what my point of view is. I want to hear what somebody else's is and see what I didn't see, right? Learn what I didn't know. And that's the only way you can do that. So for me, I volunteered. I said, no, I want to do this. It's Hulk Hogan. I want to hear, you know, what Jim Ross thought of all that from his perspective, because I've never talked to anybody else about that worked there at that time. So it was fun for me. That's why it worked.
That was one of the most like enjoyable episodes of Grilling JR. I listened to it today, and it floats so well. I think the best parts of that episode was the parts where you guys weren't talking about Hogan, because you guys were just shooting the shit, going back and forth. It kind of reminded me of like, I don't know if you remember that Legends of Round Table thing that the WWE put together. Like that was just always a fun thing, because it was just guys just shooting the shit. Like, can you just please do more? Whether it's honestly, I like you and JR's dynamic. Like, I like you guys had good chemistry with each other.
And part of that is, and thank you, but part of that is because no one was expecting it. We didn't promote it. We didn't make a big deal out of it. It was just like, whoa, wait a minute. What the hell? What's going on here? And the other part of it was because it was easy for Jim and I just to have a conversation. We weren't covering in detail. It wasn't the typical, Meltzer said this or Meltzer said that. It wasn't that. I couldn't get myself to do that. It was in the format, by the way. I got 2 pages of notes. It was in there, and I went, no. So then we just started riffing and just chatting, but it's really just because it was different. If you heard it every week, you'd probably not feel the same way after a couple months.
Well, we have a few questions about Kevin Nash as well. This one wants to know about your conversations with him. 82 Atlantic asked, during 30 years of friendship with Kevin Nash, do you recall any spirited debates regarding political or social issues, since 82 Atlantic is assuming that you two had opposite views in that area?
In what area?
In the area of politics and social issues.
Kevin and I have talked politics. We've discussed our respective views on a number of social and political issues. Kevin is a very smart guy, and he like me, he likes an intelligent debate, much like I like to hear things from somebody else's point of view, like Jim Ross's, because I learned something that I didn't know before, or at least think about something that I'd not thought about before, in worst case scenario. And Kevin's the same way. Neither one of us are hotheads about, I'm not. There's a lot of people that I know well and like and respect that I don't agree with 70% of what I hear him say. But I don't want to get in the way. I don't judge them as human beings because of what they think. And Kevin and I did have, but we never got anything more than interesting. Now, we had other conversations and debates and butted heads creatively and business-wise that, thankfully for me, because I'm still here and I can function, didn't escalate any further than they did, because we were real close a couple times. But, half an hour later, we cooled down, had a beer, and moved on. But that's why I like Kevin so much. Kevin and I disagree on a lot of things, business-wise or creatively, but we agree on more. But every once in a while, you butt heads, but never politically or on political or social issues.
So, I mean, if he can powerbomb you through a stage and you guys still be friends, then
where's the argument there?
There you go.
Yeah, if you could get through that and end up going down to the bar and having a beer that night, you can get through anything.
So we have a very interesting question or super chat from Klaus Schwab, who says Eric Bischoff didn't start the NWO. I did. I'm wondering if that's some conspiracy theory stuff. Are we supposed to know who Klaus is?
Yeah, if you're one of those people that are into that kind of thing. I think I watched something, and it was either Discovery or it's probably History Channel a while back, and I think that name, it rings a bell, and I think he may have been part of some version of a New World Order we're kind of seeing it happen today, aren't we? But it was something that happened way back when. Yeah, he's some kind of a conspiracy theory character.
Gotcha. World Economic Forum. Got it. Also, same avatar, Josh Eternal. Do the fans have the right to be mad at Roman Reigns?
You have a right to do whatever you want.
Also, while we're
Wasted
here,
energy though, folks.
Mr. Gus 3150 just gave us $20 super chat. Just to thank you. And thank you, Mr. Gus.
Happy NWO Day, Mr. Gus. McMack wants us to bet you 2 slabs that Jay Lethal will wrestle Ric Flair. Thoughts?
I don't know. I don't bet on things I don't at least have a feel for, so I'll pass on that one. It would be fun though,
right?
That would be fun.
All right.
I'm gonna fill in the blank from the last question because just a blank question. But you were talking to JR about that match with Hogan and Shawn Michaels. You asked JR what he thought about the match. I want to know, what did you think about that match?
I was pissed. I was pissed off. Internally. I mean, I saw what was going on. It was so obvious to me right out of the chute. I felt really bad for Hulk. That's just such a terrible thing to do to somebody. Like, if you got an issue with somebody in the ring, take care of it before you get to the ring or after you get out. But when you're in the ring, don't go into business for yourself. Don't get cute because of whatever personal issues you have. And that's exactly what Shawn Michaels did, in my opinion. And if you go back and watch that match and just pay even a little bit of attention in terms of how much Shawn Michaels oversold to the point of being parody. And that was just him being a dick. And yeah, I was pretty angry. And it wasn't just because, my relationship with Hulk. It's just a horrible thing to do to somebody. Man, you're in front of 20,000 people. You're on a pay-per-view, and you're going to go out there and go into business for yourself because, for whatever reason, I don't know. I still get a little hot thinking about it. I mean, I'm over it, but the idea of somebody doing that, I think, is something that will always aggravate me. I said, you got a problem with somebody, do it before you get to work, do it after you get done working, but don't do it while you're working. It's just bad business.
So speaking of $20 super chats, Mr. Whisper, speaking of Glacier, Morris, and that whole pack of bandits, what are your thoughts on Wrath? You gave him a win streak, which not everyone got. What were your initial thoughts on him, and how far do you think he could have gone? What his potential? What was his potential?
Well, I don't know what his potential could be. How far could he have gone? I mean, the circumstances were what the circumstances were, and he went as far as he could have gotten under those circumstances. I know it's a shitty way to answer that, but I don't know another way to be honest and answer it, not just spin things. Here's what I thought of him. I really liked him as a human being, liked him as a person, liked him professionally. I liked the way he carried himself. I liked the way he communicated. I respected what his capabilities were in the ring, but I recognized that he was not going to be an interview. He wasn't going to be the guy that's going to go out there and chop down a promo, right? He's not going to carry a 15-minute, 10-minute, or 4-minute promo. So it was, okay, what do I do with this amazingly talented person in all these other areas with this phenomenal look, but cast him in a role where dialogue isn't important? And because of the mask and the attire and the persona, that was, I think, a good strategy for him. Didn't work, but not because of him. Didn't work for a variety of things, not the least of which is I was about 2 years late with that idea. Maybe 3. It's a great idea 36 months ago. But introducing that concept, that immortal ripoff concept, did I say mortal? What was it? I mean, Mortal Kombat. To kind of rip that off, so to speak, and put it into wrestling. Had I done that 3 years earlier, I think the outcome for Wrath and everybody else would have been much different. Timing. Just like me and Cole Hauser and being able to give him a beer. Timing is everything.
Cole Hauser's going to be in this Hulk Hogan movie you're working on. This connection has happened.
Fingers crossed. Let's go way back.
Mean Gene Oakland. We could shave his head.
Oh, yes.
Put a mustache on him. He could be Mean Gene Oakland.
Well, let's get to a question that came in before we even went live today, and it's actually not about Mean Gene, but about Tony Schiavone. Nicholas Blake asks, Eric, when Tony Schiavone told Hulk Hogan to go to hell, was that scripted or not? Nicholas says that was the best line ever.
Not. Tony didn't know. Tony didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, the guys involved knew what was going to happen. Tony didn't know what was going to happen. He had no idea. He had no better idea than the person sitting in the third row. So, that was all Tony.
Do you remember Tony's response, like, after he got back to Gorilla already? Did he say to you, like, whoa, holy crap, man? Like,
no.
Good surprise.
No, I didn't. I don't know when I saw Tony after the show was over. It might have been a couple days. Because when that show was over, it was chaos. And we really wanted to get Hulk out of there as quick as we could. We wanted to get Hall and Nash out as quick as we could. I wanted out as quick as I could. But no, it was it was crazy. And I don't think I saw Tony till maybe the next night, Monday night.
Sure, everybody was blown away.
So we have two last super chats. They were from our resident shitster, Micmac. And I'm a little confused by the text, so maybe
No
y'all
shit.
can help.
Imagine that, being confused by a Micmac text.
He says, "Happy birthday, Mrs. Bischoff." Yes, absolutely. We have the same birthday week. Sure, we've been celebrating your birthday for at least 3 weeks, Micmac. My next super
3
chat, I have
months.
something I've been meaning to say. It's been on my mind. I've been meaning to say. And that is his favorite movie is What Women Want. Had to get it out.
He had to get it out. He couldn't hold it in any longer. He wanted us all to know.
His favorite movie is What Women Want. He's
With
been
Mel
begging us
Gibson?
to let you know.
Classic. Classic. Is that one in your film library?
No. No, I have no idea what Micmac is talking about. What time is it in Australia? What time is it in Australia right now?
We've been wondering that.
Beer 30.
It is too late.
10:48 a.m.
Too late.
Oh,
10:48 a.m.?
Yes.
All right.
On,
he's not
on
drinking.
Thursday or Friday?
He's
On
working
Friday.
hard or
Friday.
hardly working?
No, he's,
All right, don't tell us what's going to happen.
He's not,
Micmac.
he's not in a pub somewhere. He's probably on a roof working. So I don't know. I don't know what that meant.
Be careful out
His
there.
favorite
sir.
film. Favorite film, Mel Gibson. Who
I
knows?
like it.
Eric, I
didn't
want
hear
to
that.
ask. I want to ask about that finance executive whose office you refused to go to. Did you ever have to encounter her or work with her at any time in the future?
No, I got fired the next day.
Okay, so you never saw this woman again? Never had to hear from her?
No, and that was the whole point of that conversation. I don't know if you heard the whole thing, but Bill Bush, who actually reported, her name was Vicki Miller. Bill Bush, who worked with me, he didn't report to me. He was a dotted line to me. He actually reported to Vicki Miller in finance, but he had become a confidant of mine. He was a friend, and I kind of vented with him one night and shared my thoughts about what was being asked of us to do and what was being done to us by finance, and not only Vicki Miller but others. And he communicated that to her. This is what I suspect. I don't know this to be absolutely true, but pretty sure I'm right. He went to his boss and said, I think Eric's getting ready to take a walk, because that's what I confided in him. And she had previously asked me to come to her office a day or two earlier, and she wanted to meet with me. And Bill brought that up to me while I was in confidence with him, or thought I was. And I said, fuck her. If she wants to talk to me, she can come to me. I got fired at 10 a.m. the following morning. So you connect the dots. You tell me, or maybe not. I don't know. But that's what happened. No, I never went to her office.
But so even when you went back to work there, or in your history, your decades now of working in the TV biz after that, you never encountered this woman?
No, because when they asked me to come back a few months later, I told them there's no way I would come back as an employee, because I didn't want to deal with her or anybody else at that point. I didn't want to deal with any AOL Time Warner executives or Turner. Nobody. Zero. Nada. I don't want a phone call. I don't want an email. Nothing. I'll talk to Brad Siegel. It's the only guy I'm talking to, because I'm a consultant. And I was an independent contractor. And I would consult with Brad, but only Brad.
So Vicky's going to be on Strictly Business next week, right?
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Mending fences here on Ad Free Shows.
I would want to talk to her. And I don't hold a grudge. It's just, that's just something that I don't want to get angry about, so I don't think about it.
Vicky.
Stop it!
Vicky. Well, we are going to wrap up our time here on the 83 Weeks channel on YouTube. Ad-free show, guys. Stay tuned, because Lash at the Beach does not happen for another 10 minutes, so we're going to give you a little private time with Eric. We have got some more great questions that we want to get to. So if you have joined us on the 83 Weeks channel, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified every time we go live here with Eric. And thank you so much for watching. Sign up over at Ad-free Shows and get all the other good stuff. We'll see you next week.
Spread parade wave.
Yo, nice. The Cole Hauser wave.
Blue.
You should
Come
be
here,
you should be working on your parade beer toss, Eric.
I know. Wait till next year.
Oh,
Blue.
that odd tempo change. I'm never ready for it. Every week, I'm never ready for it. And then it
Oh,
happens.
StreamYard just allowed, like this week, they just allowed the function for you to upload your own song.
Ah.